Welcome back to the Scouting the Cities podcast. It's been a while, but we're back with a banger, a heater. We got Mark Dowdle, marathon runner. I'm just going to call him a runner. He runs a lot. He's doing this calendar club right now, which is running the day on the calendar, that amount of miles. So, September 1st, 1 mile. September 31st, 31 miles. Are there 31 days in September? There's 30 days in September. Thank you, Casey. I don't know that one. So anyway, he runs 30 days September 30th. September 31st doesn't exist. So Mark Dowdle, special guy. Like I say about every guest, super passionate about what we're talking about today, which is awesome. I told him afterward, when I talk to these people on this podcast, it just gets me buzzing, They're so excited about what they're doing. And, they're not oftentimes getting the time to talk about it. And now they do, and they're ready to talk and are super excited about it. And that's what makes me excited talking to them and excited to share with you. So here it is, Scouting the Cities. Enjoy. Mark Dowdle, welcome into the studio, Scouting the Cities podcast. You're big-time runner, I guess, is what I would define you as. I don't know. I guess you're doing this huge calendar club challenge. You've done a bunch of, long runs, marathons every, 5 times a month. I guess, how would you describe what you're doing to other people, just broadly?
Yeah. So the actual challenge that I'm doing right now is called Calendar Club. Mm-hmm. And I've deemed it Calendar Club 365 because traditionally, and I've done this myself back in April of 2020, where you run the number of miles equal to the day. So today on September 18th, I'll be running 18 miles. I ran 17 yesterday. I'll run 19 tomorrow. Do it every single day of the month. Now, if you're a runner or you've kind of delved into ultra running and challenges like that, that's not an uncommon thing for people to do a month. Where I'm different in the fact is I'm doing it every single month for a year. So every month I reset at 1 mile and I go up to the end of the month. And at the end of it, it'll be close to 6,000 total miles.
Yeah, 5,700 miles, right?
Yeah, 5,700 miles. And then I've done a number of different challenges along the way, which my goal is to get above 6,000.
Yeah. So do you think, I guess, where did this idea come from? Did it, from other runners doing it just for a month and you're like, I'm going to top all that? Or what was the inspiration?
Yeah, the inspiration, I think a little bit of that. I've always had, I played, like we were talking about, I played 2 sports here, and I have that competitive edge. And in running, it isn't very much like that. It's a very solo endeavor. And when I did it the first time in April of 2020, I got to the end of the month, and of course, friends being friends, they were like, you did it on a 30-day month instead of a 31-day month. Yeah. And I just, in the back of my head, I was like, I should do a 31-day month. What would that look like? Or could I do 2 months? Could I keep this going? And at the time, I was relatively new to running, and I didn't really have the capacity or bandwidth or support around me to ensure that I could actually do that. Because then you're projecting out full your Christmas, all these different holidays, weddings, all these different events.
Sorry, Mom, I gotta go run 25 miles.
So I think in the back of my mind, 3 years later, I was like, some things were opening up on my calendar, and I thought it was the right time to step into this new sort of endeavor.
Yeah. So you graduated from St. Thomas in 2019, you said, right? Yes. And you played football, and then were you...
I was a lacrosse player as well.
Oh, okay, yeah. So then coming from those sports, I'm guessing you weren't running crazy amount of miles as an athlete. So how did you then transition, you graduate? Did you just start getting into ultra running and stuff like that, or just how did that come about?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, a little bit. I remember coming back from a lacrosse tournament type weekend where we lost 2 out of our 3 games of teams we shouldn't have lost to. And I remember getting sent this podcast from my older brother of the Joe Rogan, David Goggins podcast.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that just sparked my oh my gosh, there's people that do these types of challenges and runs, 100 miles across multiple days. And this was in the spring of my senior year. And so when the playing days kind of came to a close, I had continued running through the spring and into the summer after I graduated. And I recall, and to this day, this is really what stems and roots me with running, is this freedom and release of negative energy. I was a very aggressive player on the field, and I didn't have the best skills to handle the emotions that I had as a 18, 19, 20-year-old male. And so I would just bottle up the emotion and let it go on Saturday, bottle it back up. And when I started running, I noticed a release in that, just that aggression or tensity, and I enjoyed it. Like I felt free for the first time. And like I said, I'm very competitive. And so once I signed up for a marathon and I completed a marathon, I was like, what else can I do? How far can I take this type of deal?
Yeah. So I guess that was like the year 2019, 2020 kind of time.
Yes.
So like how many marathons did you get into like in those first years? And then I guess now you're running almost 5 a month or whatever, whatever it is.
I've done 2 official marathons. The first was in 2019. I signed up for Twin Cities Marathon. And immediately after that, I just started looking into 30-mile races, 50-mile races, trying, there's this challenge called the Goggins 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. So I did that, and I'm doing all these different things and just, wetting my palate. And, I kind of turned my back on the marathon after the first one and just said, all right, I know I can do that. Can I do 100 miles or can I do 150 miles?
So was that first marathon even like challenging for you?
Oh my God. It was to this day the most painful experience of my life. Yeah. It was, oh my God, it was so painful because I went in undertrained. Going into it, I probably had run at most 15 miles, like my peak amount of miles. And I just destroyed myself. But I was like, holy cow, like I didn't really train for this, and I feel this amount of pain, but this amount of pain brought this amount of accomplishment and satisfaction. And it was, I kind of fell in love with that feeling.
Does that pain kind of almost elevate the sense of accomplishment that you feel in these things?
Yeah, it's funny. I was listening to a podcast today, the Rich Roll podcast, where they were talking about happiness and how satisfaction is one of those macronutrients to a happy life. And not the feeling of happiness, but the overall joy you get. And in order to find satisfaction, you have to struggle for it. One of the examples the professor used on the podcast was, he's like, my students, I tell them this all the time, you can cheat on my test, but you won't get the satisfaction of actually getting the A if all you did was cheat on the test. But when you work hard for things, you get this incredible amount of satisfaction. And that's what I think is really special about the running that I do. And what I've loved about it is, in order to get that satisfaction, you're going to have to go through hurt.
Yeah. So you're doing this, calendar club, right?
Yeah.
So that pain on those, once you've reached, well, I mean, I'm sure, when does that pain start to kick in? When is it like getting a little harder? Is it, now what, 5 months in?
5 months in,
Is it even hard anymore on the 25th, 26th, 30th day?
I wish this were not true, but it has started to become rhythmic. Like it's not easy, but I know I can get it done. I don't know what the winter months look like. And so for some of those reasons, I've switched the ultimate goal. Yes, my ultimate goal is to complete this challenge, all 6,000 miles. But what really turned a corner for me a few years ago in running was I would notice that all the challenges I were doing were really focused on what I was accomplishing. And I wasn't getting that satisfaction of like really impacting people around me. And my shift in focus for this challenge has been like, who else can I get to set their personal best, their PR, as you call it. And so my goal on top of doing Calendar Club is to help 1,000 people until the end of this challenge to set their new distance PR. And that to me has been so incredible because I know what the pain feels like. I know what it looks like. And I can do, and at the end of July, we did a run where we ran for 3 days straight from Duluth to St. Paul. Yeah. And there was pain involved in that. But trying to find pain in this challenge, I don't think is necessarily what I'm called to do. But I can help other people through their pain. And I think that's another aspect of, I've learned so much from running and so much from the pain of running. And I know running is a big pain point for people. And if I can help them kind of lower that level and walk them through some of those conversations that you'll have when you're going through those dark times, that's what I'm really getting fired up about right now.
Yeah, you had, 8 people last month? Or is it this month?
8 people this month, yes.
That's also, like, are people reaching out to you? How is that coming about?
A little bit of both. I will throw it out on my social media. I'm talking about it as much as I possibly can a day. And people will just comment on a post or message me directly, say, hey, I want a PR. When can I sign up?
Yeah. So out of the people you've had so far, what has that experience been like? I think you've had some people who are athletes who have like lower mile PRs, and then some people who are, a little bit higher, right?
Yeah.
So like, what has that experience been like, just being with different types of runners? Like, how does it affect your pace, I guess, as you go through the day?
Yeah. I mean, my pace in generally speaking is slow. Yeah. Like, in order to go far, you got to be able to make sure you can get there and not burn out. And so my motto is like 10-minute mile pace. A lot of times I'm doing 12-minute mile pace. I ran with an old teammate of mine on Friday, and what was really cool was watching some of the preconceived notions about someone entering a space to run with me, because before someone starts that run with me, they think, I can't run with this guy. He's done all of these challenges. He's built up all these miles. There's no way that I'm going to be able to run with him. And what was cool to me to see was, it's like, I'm here for you. We're running at your pace. We're going to help you accomplish this goal. We walked for the last 4 miles, and a lot of people will shame themselves, or they'll feel less accomplished in their goal because they didn't run the whole thing or sprint the whole thing or feel completely gassed at the end of it. And so for me, it really is showing that there are so many different types of runners, and whether you're someone, because my goal is to get people to move, get people to either go from the couch to their first mile, go from a 5K to a 10K, go from a half marathon to a full marathon, have someone run the entire month of Calendar Club with me. To me, it doesn't really matter where you're at on that journey, because that person going from 1 to 2 miles, that's as impactful to them as it is for someone going from a full marathon to 31 miles. It's equal to the individual. And so for me, I love being a part of that journey for them, because I think people just, I need it myself. And so I like to be an advocate for people. We just need support. Yeah. And when we're going through something really challenging, the only thing that I know how to do in situations like that is just, can I be there for them and help them through that painful experience? Yeah.
I'm sure you see a lot of like self-realization at the end of the runs, like, oh man, I can actually do this stuff.
Yes. And people go, oh my God, I just ran 15 miles. I've never done that before. I can't wait to see when the next time I'm going to run and go beyond that.
Yeah, now I can do 16, 17, right?
And so it's just like constant push to get better.
Yeah. So with this Calendar Club, you're posting a ton, right? Like you're very on top of the schedule and everything. How do you, the running's got to be a big part of your schedule, right?
Yeah.
Taking care of your body, working on top of it. How are you able to maintain also getting these videos out and then writing long messages with them as well.
Yeah. It takes a lot. The videos, I've been able to at least get a format together. I am not in any way like a content creator. Even though my sister will say, "Oh, you're a content guy."
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, people, but
You're an influencer.
I'm an influencer.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's when I've had some help from actual creators that just give me tips on how to formulate a consistent template that I can wash, rinse, repeat. So that stuff has started to come together and become a more seamless process. The long messages, I have so much time on these runs, man, to think. And I do put a lot of pressure on myself to have a thoughtful message, which only makes me dig even deeper. But, you know, there'll be sometimes while I'm on a run, I'm like crafting something up so that I can get it ready to post run.
Yeah, of course.
Just trying to utilize the time that I have.
Yeah. So, well, I guess what does a normal day look like for you? Like, it's got to be. Do you kind of have some sense of, you know, the same thing every day, or
Consistency?
Is it consistency?
Yeah, yes and no. I start my days at Yoakum Strength, which you know.
Yeah. Friend of the podcast.
Friend of the podcast, friend of the show. And so I usually start 4 days there. So my mornings start with Yoakum, and then I get into my day-to-day job. And luckily I've been able to work at home, and when I'm not, I'm out visiting stores and doing store checks. But generally the theme is like lift in the morning, work, get some food in me, and then I'm out the door by 3:30. And you know, I try and split up the runs as best I can, but it's just fitting it in where I can.
Yeah. How are you maintaining your like body throughout all this? Like, are you stretching every morning? Like you're saying you're going and weightlifting as well.
Yeah.
How do you stay like healthy?
I think the weightlifting is the way that I maintain my body. And I really do believe that. Before, I lifted in college, and then when I was done with sports, I stopped lifting altogether, and I just boosted the miles, and I noticed my body break down, and just become fragile and weak. And I made a shift in how I trained about a year and a half back, where I started to take back the miles and incorporate Yoakum's lifts, and just found tremendous growth in there. So, you know, I'm not stretching during the day. I'm not doing any of these like yoga. I'm lifting in the morning, and then my body's in constant motion. So I'm not really sitting a whole lot during the day if I can help it.
Yeah. You're not sitting at a computer.
No.
Curled
and
back.
when I do, I'm making sure to get up and move throughout that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like a normal influencer or content creator.
No.
That's what separates you.
Yeah.
So, like you mentioned with having people on your runs, you've done a lot of stuff kind of like that for bigger communities.
Yeah.
Like I noticed this. You raised over $50,000 for Love Like Lori.
Yes.
Can you walk through that story? Because look, a family friend of yours and raising that money, and you've done that run a few years now, right?
3 times.
Years?
Yeah. That started. So it was a shift after I did Calendar Club that 1 month in April. And I had this realization that I wanted to use running as more of a way to connect me with other people, opposed to just finding ways to separate myself from other people. And Blake, he is a friend of mine still, and he was a former teammate, so he was on the football team. And his mom was on her way out, passing from pancreatic cancer. And they had not an official 501c3 set up, but they had this thing called Love Like Lori, and it was a way to help support the family. And knowing that John, the father, wanted to kind of get something off the ground eventually to help give back to other families in need, particularly with pancreatic cancer, I just saw as an opportunity to say, hey, why don't we do this big run? And we can raise money, and let's get something off the ground and start this 501c3. And they loved the idea. And Lori, she was still with us at the time. She said, I love it, but every dollar that is donated will go to families outside of our own. And so the first year we did it was Duluth back here to St. Thomas, raised $10,000. Then we got the 501c3 started. The second year was Fargo to Stillwater. We raised $22,000. And then a year ago this week, we went from Springfield, Illinois through Cameron, Illinois, where Lori was born and raised, and then finished off here in St. Paul.
Yeah. That's unbelievable. And that was over 4 days. Is that right? Or
the most recent run was over 9 days.
9 days.
500 miles in 9 days.
Dang.
Yeah.
So what was the process of that like? I mean, you're going through these random towns, I assume, right? Like, what was that like?
Incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, you meet the nicest people when you're out in the middle of nowhere doing something like that. We had met someone who donated $1,000 to us and brought us food because John and my father were out trying to get us food, and they needed to park the trailer somewhere. So they went in and asked the bakery if we could park the camper in their lot, and some people overheard, and they got some cash together, and just like a wild instance that came together. And ended up helping a family that really needed it. And, you know, I ran 500 miles, but Blake ran over 240 miles, and he's not a runner.
Yeah.
His dad, John, ran over 100 miles. We had people running well over 40 miles above their personal best. And so it was really cool to see, like, it was a whole team effort. My girlfriend Lucy was out there, and she was whipping up meals for us and just being a caretaker that she is. And you know, there's so many people that were involved that it really felt for the first time when we started doing these Love Like Lori's, I was like, holy cow, this is what it feels like to be on a team again. Like this is what it felt like to be a part of something greater than just ourselves.
So over those 9 days, are you running entirely during the day, sleeping at night, wherever you end up kind of thing?
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
It's about 50 to 55 miles a day.
What was the best meal you had? On the
Best meal? Every meal was the best meal.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with that answer.
Yeah. So you've done this, and then you've done this, like you said, for the first year, the Duluth to St. Paul.
Yes.
And then you've continued doing the Duluth to St. Paul as well, right?
Yeah, I originally had it thought out where in the back of my mind I wanted to see what it would be like to just push a baby stroller full of gear and sleep on the ground wherever I found a spot. And the year after, as a training run for the second Love Like Lori, I grabbed a friend of mine. His name's Kellen, and we did that run over the course of 3 days and just slept in campgrounds. We slept on a golf course one night, and then did it again this year. And yeah, it's starting to become an annual thing.
Yeah. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
What, I guess, while running through these places and ending up, I'm sure you end up with some good stories.
Oh yeah.
Anything that sticks out to you?
I mean, the golf course. I mean, that was.
You were supposed to be on the golf course, right?
I mean, yes, we were supposed to be there, and we woke up to the groundskeeper mowing the green, and I have a photo that I can send you that's just Kellen's got the blanket, his hammock is laid up. I mean, we just look, like absolutely like we're not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Not fitting the country club vibe.
No, like some Caddyshack.
Yeah, some Caddyshack.
Yeah.
And we wake up the next morning, or that morning we went to grab breakfast, and the police officers in the restaurant were like, you guys are the guys we saw running down the road last night. What are you doing?
Yeah.
So it just sparks conversation.
Of course, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, there's so many stories like that.
You just meet some interesting people on these
they're
random
curious.
towns.
You have a stroller, and it's just covered and littered with supplies, and people are like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
But that's cool. You get the best of people, I think, in those situations.
Yeah. And so throughout, I guess, your run, like your promotion on social media and everything, you've started to get some like sponsors and everything. How is that like happened for you?
It really hasn't happened for me. I wouldn't. Sponsors is it's been hard. That's been hard for me to acquire. I guess sponsors that I'm working with right now is Embrace North, which is a cold tub sauna business here in the Twin Cities that's reopening in October, and the owner of that is Kellen. Yeah. So pretty easy guy to get involved there. And then there's a protein company called Seek that one of my old coworkers of 3 years, he moved companies, and I just talked to him like, hey, can you help me out? Drink your stuff. And I think other people would like it too. But that's a starting point for me. Mm-hmm. That, like I said, I'm not like it may seem like an influencer, but I'm really a runner trying to share a message. And so all the content creation and like sponsorship and brand stuff is so foreign to me. And as much as I see it as a kind of need to help some of these bigger projects get some funding behind them, it's the part of running that I just don't like, It's like I like being there, being the athlete, being the runner, and helping people I like being there in the moment. And so all that other stuff takes me out of the actual job itself. Mm-hmm.
Have there been times where you're doing this running every day where it started to get a little stale at all, or is it just this is what you love to do?
Just like anything. Yeah. There are moments where I'm like, I've just decided to do this, and here I am. And there are low moments. And after this, I still have 18 miles to run. It's like, why am I doing this? Like, what?
This is hard.
Yeah, this is not fun. This is not the motivational video you see on YouTube that has inspirational music behind it. But I think anything hard is worth doing. And if I wasn't doing this, I think to myself, like, what else would I be doing? And I found a love for doing it, even in the moments that suck, even in the moments where it's midnight and I'm missing out on sleep and I'm just getting the miles finished for the day. Like, even in those moments, I'm just like, I'm so grateful that I'm choosing this where I have no idea where it'll lead me, but I'm hoping it'll lead to a greater place.
Yeah. And then you have the beer mile at the start of the
month, right?
Yeah.
It's all good. Yeah, we love the beer mile.
Beer mile. Yeah, and you get some people out for it too, right? Yeah. That's got to be a good time,
yes,
right?
People love it. You know, it's making running fun at the end of the day. In the winter, we do this thing we call run and plunge, where you run 3 miles to a open spot in the frozen lake. You jump in, and then you run a mile back to a sauna.
Oh. Man.
But we trick, like, people are like, they're not even worried about the run anymore. Yeah. They're like, how is this cold water going to feel?
Yeah. So, and then it's like, get me back to the sauna right now.
Yes.
I'm booking.
Survival
PRs
mode. Yes.
all across the board.
100%.
I'm sure that's crazy. That is nuts. So, and then I noticed you have this like, you have like an affiliation with the Date Night podcast. I wanted to ask about that. What is the story there? Because St. Thomas students started it, right?
Yes. Yeah, Declan and Andrew, former Tommy football players, they started a podcast in college called the Back Pocket Podcast. And since then, it's become a production company, and they've started a number of different podcasts under that umbrella. And we're going on our 5th season. We're in the middle of it right now at Gray's. And, they started it. It's the format is someone will come on, they'll go on 3 blind dates, and they'll have 10 minutes to date them in front of a live audience of 200 people. Mm-hmm. And then they pick someone to go on a second date with. Yeah. I got involved with it because Andrew and Declan are friends of mine, and I was going to the shows every week anyway, and I saw that Andrew could use a little help, so I stepped in and passed me more roles, and just kind of led into I'm helping out on stage now.
That's really interesting.
So it's a unique experience. Yeah.
So I guess you mentioned this a little bit earlier. What are your like plans for when it becomes wintertime for the Calendar Club? Like, it's probably going to get a little bit harder, I would assume, on your body.
Thanks for that.
In general, it's going to suck. You're not going to be able to do it. You're a loser. No. So what is like, have you thought about it really?
I've thought about it only yes, I've thought about it when people ask me about it. And that's not any shame on the question, because it is a real question, and I imagine it's going to be more difficult, but like we just talked about, it's like I imagine I'm going to get so much more out of it because of that experience. And something that I learned last winter, particularly through the run and plunges and spending time at Embrace North, is really truly when you embrace the elements and you flip your mindset to, I'm going to find a way to have fun this winter and be outside and not have it impact my mental health, because I know it does every year. If I can find a way to be in it and love it and be prepared for it, then I'll walk away with an incredible experience, which I did last winter. So I'm only going to double down on that even more. And the snow beards, the ice beards, those are literally the only thing that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, you get the snow. You look, like your Bear Grylls doing like what,
Forrest Gump calls. I get those a lot.
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
I guess more specifically, like gear wise, so it'll have to change for the winter.
Yeah.
Like what you're wearing, and then like shoes. Do you go through quite a few shoes?
Yeah, about one a month.
One a month, really?
Yeah.
And are you rocking with Hoka's always?
I'm rocking with Hoka's because I'm not terribly particular about the shoe I wear. I was that way in college with the cleats. I just found one that I liked and it worked, and I have bought the same pair, same model for the last 3 years.
Do you change up the color at all?
Oh, I do. Actually. This is the color I'm working right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, gear will, I might have a few shirtless days just to really rub the winter. But yeah, I mean, sweatshirt, I'll be prepared out there, but I'm going to enjoy myself.
Yeah. Do you have future plans for more, long runs, or just to get bigger groups of people out running?
Yeah. I mean, in the back of my mind, I've always wanted to do a Transcon run, running across the United States. Yeah. With the calendar club, I would love to be able to take it to another city. Like, my ultimate goal with calendar club, as I see it right now, is it would be awesome if there was a person signed up to PR with me every single day of the month. Whether it's their first mile, second mile, third mile, all the way up, whether it's one person that day or a group that day, and have just a ton of different prizes for people along the way. Because one of the things that is slightly bothersome to me with running is when you're signing up for the marathon, it's like $180.
Yeah.
And you go through 16 weeks of training and you take out all this time, effort, energy, and money, and you get like a free beer at the end, and you can tell people you ran a marathon. But I kind of want to flip that script. Like, I want someone to come in and have an opportunity to win a free pair of shoes, or get some free product from some of these companies, or even do a raffle where they win 50-50 on some money. Like, really give people an opportunity to be rewarded for their success. And not just constantly take from people. And I think, it would be sweet to be in Dublin, Ireland. That'd be sweet to go to Ireland and be like, beer mile on the first. That'd be the best.
Give me some Guinness, Yeah.
So, I think just taking it to different cities and get as many people involved as possible.
Just growing, right?
Yeah.
So what do you hope people take from your experiences that you're putting out on social media, these messages, these everything, whether it's running or, whatever people are doing on a day-to-day basis? You're kind of just like saying, I love to run, I'm going to put it out there.
Yeah.
What do you hope people get from what you're putting out?
Yeah, that's a great question. My hope is that people feel not just inspired, but inspired to take action and move. I know what it feels like to like, when I first started, I started with a marathon, and now I'm running 5 in a week, and I'm not expecting anybody to go through that. But I think when people can see that running 1 mile, if that is their hardest thing, that is so worth doing when you remove the comparison to what I'm doing or what your friends are doing or what other people around you are posting on social media. And I think you should be encouraged, and there should be an element of like fear going into that. You know, when people will say like, I'm training for a marathon, or like, I want to run a marathon. I'm like, do you think you could run a marathon tomorrow if you had to? Like, absolutely had to. Do you think you could? And they're like, yeah, probably. I'm like, then you shouldn't be training. You should be try a 50 miler. Like, do something that actually scares you, that you're going to have to put time and intention into. And I think that's my message, is like, I want people to move, and I want to help them move from one place to another. And the best way that I can do that is to talk about the things that I'm doing. The last thing I'll say on that is, you know, I want to be a father one day. And this is what Kellen and I talk about on our longer runs. It's like, one day my son or daughter are going to come up to me at some point in their life, and they're going to say, hey, Dad, I'm having an issue right now. I feel like I'm failing in this regard, or this obstacle is making me feel really poor about myself. And if they ask me for advice, then I will be able to pull on experiences where I've put myself intentionally in a space to handle those things. And I can lead by example.
Yeah. Sort of go back, like, you know, have these experiences. That's really what it is, you know?
For sure.
Like, have these experiences where things suck, you know, or like this was really hard.
Yeah.
And then, you know, put it out and be able to look back on those, right?
100%.
We're young right now.
Dude.
Yeah, dude,
We're young, dude.
We do whatever we want.
It.
Yeah. So totally, you know, switching the topic. Final question I'll ask you, what is your favorite movie of all time?
Ooh, favorite movie of all time. That's a hard question. This is probably not my favorite movie, but this trilogy has been on my mind, and it's gonna make me look soft, but I don't care. It's the Before trilogies. Do you know Before?
No, I don't.
Before Sunrise, Before Midnight, Before Sunset, and Before Midnight. It is
Never heard of them.
very heavily in dialogue. It has Ethan Hawke as the lead, and it's a love story. And it's sweet and
dramatic.
It's a little dramatic, but it's like, not like The Notebook dramatic.
Yeah,
it is just like, it's these two people, strangers, that meet on a train, and then they decide to spend a night together and like learn about each other, and then it follows their story
throughout the three.
Because then they like go their separate ways, and they were supposed to meet back, and he showed up and she didn't, so he wrote a book.
Yeah.
And it
sounds interesting.
It is, but it's very heavy in dialogue, and it's a little on the older side. So
yeah. Well, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, you
and
check
maybe
it out.
some other people will too.
You guys out there.
I actually, one more question.
Okay.
What do you listen to music on your runs?
No,
none at all.
No, I spent the first 3 years of running like hard and fast, not listening to anything. It was a good check-in for me to learn more about myself, reflect, good times, bad times, or just let my mind go completely blank, because we don't really get a whole lot of that during our days. Since then, don't test me on it, but I have started to learn Spanish. I'm trying to learn a language.
Yeah.
Because I've just so much time. Last month, I spent almost 90 hours of running in the month of August. So it's like, that's a lot of time to be able to learn a new language or stuff like that. So
why not?
Yeah, why not?
All right. Well, Mark, it's been awesome having you.
Dude.
Go out and run, man.
Go out and run.
You can run right
hey,
out of here.
Let me ask you a question.
Uh-huh.
What's your PR?
My PR is 1 mile.
All right.
Exactly.
Well, come run 2 miles.
Hey, maybe I will. Honestly, I'll have to sign up, right?
Yeah.
So people can sign up on in your link.
Yes, it's a link in my bio,
Yeah.
or I just recently created a website, mark-dowdle.com.
Yeah.
So it'll be a landing page for that. But thank you for having me on. I had a ton of fun.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Great.
Appreciate it.